Many Kenyans believe that the re-election of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States of America is going to be a blessing in disguise. They are saying that they believe Donald Trump will take a paradigm shift from the kind of puppet relationship that William Ruto had with with President Joe Biden. In fact, Kenyans have written a letter to Donald Trump asking him to recall the American ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman. They call her a rogue ambassador. They say that Meg Whitman has been involved in our internal affairs, including the 2022 election, and that when people are being butchered and killed on the streets and being abducted, Meg Whitman has always maintained a loud silence. And indeed, Kenyans have got a lot of hopes that Donald Trump will bring order and sanity that they feel has been lost, that we really need to let Kenya exercise its autonomy. But Tom Wolfe, who is a lead researcher in political activities, is telling Kenyans that they could be disappointed. Tom Wolfe says that in many engagements with Kenyans, Kenyans are expressing hope that Donald Trump will help them get into our internal affairs, but for the better. But he's saying that Donald Trump will not try to engage in such matters like, abductions. He will not be speaking about them because they will be holding Americans' interest at heart. And he's saying that as such, Kenyans who believe that Trump is going to be their messiah will be seriously disappointed when they see Donald quiet and pushing for the American interest. Kindly take a look.
We haven't done a survey, so I don't have data. But just looking at social media, I've been seeing for some time, and you have too, a lot of criticism of the American ambassador here for not being stronger in the response to the violations that took place during and after the Gen Z protests, that she wasn't strong enough on human rights. And that's kind of ironic because we know that's the last thing that Donald Trump would care about. So I've heard even some of my friends sending me text messages saying, oh, they're happy to see Ambassador Whitman go because she's been too close to President Ruto and not willing enough to criticize, especially on these killings, disappearances, and so on. But I tell them, based on his record, as Dr. Nzomo said, Trump is transactional. I mean, his people are, unless I'm very wrong, in who he's going to have in the State Department, they're going to care far less about human rights issues and be more concerned with business investment, what's good for America. And one other thing related to that, something that also Professor Ambassador referred to, is that the strong evangelical Christian support behind the Trump campaign. We saw in Uganda, once President Museveni signed this bill criminalizing, even with death penalty, for promoting or engaging in homosexuality and so on, that hasn't happened here, despite the efforts, I don't think for quite such a draconian, I haven't seen the details of Honorable Kaluma's bill, but remember that was introduced in Parliament and it didn't get anywhere. Now, after President Museveni signed that bill in Uganda, Uganda lost a significant amount of American and Western aid. I don't have the figures. But I think given the fact that this strong constituency behind Trump has a much more restrictive attitude to women's reproductive issues, abortion, however you want to term it, as well as the homosexuality, LGBTQ issue, I think that it wouldn't surprise me if those Kenyan voices who are closer to what the political class did in Uganda might feel emboldened. So we'll just have to wait and see. Remember that hostile reaction they had when the Supreme Court allowed that NGO that was advocating for homosexual rights, not behavior.
From AGOA.
That's right, that they had been removed or banned, whatever, and then they were reinstated by the Supreme Court. So I think that those are a couple of domestic issues which we might keep an eye on.
I reflected upon the words of Tom Wolfe and I was like, are we going to be disappointed? And my mind is drawn to some years back when Donald Trump was the 45th president of the United States of America, and Uhuru Kenyatta was our president. If you witnessed that presidency, was there any difference? Because even during Uhuru Kenyatta, we had corruption, we had wastage, we had abductions. Did Donald Trump help us in any way? I'm just asking, I'm not saying that Donald Trump will do nothing, but I'm just asking so that we compare notes. Did he do anything? Let me bring it closer home. When Obama was the president of the USA and people were going for election, some people were saying that Obama is a very close cousin of Raila Amolo Odinga because Raila calls himself Tinga Winyalego. Winyalego there means that his mother comes from Alego, Obama is from Alego. So Raila calls Obama his uncle. And many people believed that Obama would help Raila to block election malpractice. That did not happen. And then I was just trying to compare them when Donald Trump was there, Uhuru was the president, and nothing much happened in terms of, getting into affairs. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the message from Tom Wolfe is one that we must take seriously. What are some of the American interests that will override what Kenyans think that Trump will be talking about? Number one is trade. In Kenya, we have guns, but we don't produce guns. We have jets and aeroplanes and even war machines, but we don't produce them or make them in Kenya. Where do we get them? From the international community. And there is a big market and people are competing. The superpowers, the Eastern superpower that is led by Russia, China, the Japan and Korea, and the Western superpower, the UK, US and the NATO group. So Donald Trump will ensure that we continue the trade, because if they lose that trade with Kenya, those are millions of dollars. They will still want to sell for us guns and artillery and arsenal, even vehicles, machines, because Kenyans don't produce such machines, things like electricals. We also export, in as much as we import such machines, we also export things like tea, coffee, and pyrethrum. So Donald Trump would ensure that he's looking at the trade between US and Kenya first. Number two, contracts, like the construction of our infrastructure, airports, roads, railways. They will be looking at that. There's been a paradigm shift ever since Kibaki came to power, and we gave most of this contract to the Chinese government or Chinese contractors. If there is something that US would want to reverse, is this dominance by the Chinese. And so Donald Trump will be looking at that first before he gets into our democratic affairs and what is happening. And people might just be disappointed. He might just keep quiet and ensure that their relationship between Kenya and US continues. Then there is security. Again, the Eastern superpowers and the Western superpowers are struggling to ensure that they maintain their African territories. Kenya is very strategic in terms of security. In East Africa, Kenya stands at a very strategic point. And there is this satellite monitoring by satellite, where US has always dominated, East Africa. If you ask me, they are in Uganda, they are in Kenya, in Tanzania, and all that. They would want to maintain that. We have military bases of US and UK. Recently, we heard that they were demanding 2 more military bases, and you know what that means. So they will always want to ensure that they maintain that in Kenya. Kenya is always being used to create peace, to ensure that there is no political strife in our neighboring countries, because if there is insecurity in any of the countries, it poses danger to both Kenya and even the international community. Al-Shabaab and Al-Qaeda terrorists will get in, they will be targeting US embassy, UK embassy, they will be targeting those Western embassies. And that is why Kenya stands at a very strategic point. And therefore, those are some of the things that Donald Trump would be looking for. We have seen Ruto threatening that he wants to go the BRICS way. And I think this is just, a coded message. Trump will come. It is like a bait that he wants to use so that he sees what Trump will be doing. I think he wants to endear himself. And then many people feel that William Ruto will endear himself to Trump. You know, Trump has been elected on a platform of restoring Christianity that had been lost in the USA. And he said that what we have lost of late is our Bible. And he says that one of the things that they lost as America is the Bible. He promised them that they are going to revive back America. They are going to take up their Bibles. They are going to restore Christianity. You know, William Ruto with Christianity, he ascended to power using the church pulpit. And once he realizes that Donald Trump also was elected on a church platform, he will use that to endear himself to Donald Trump. Don't be surprised if William Ruto gets closer to Trump until you are wondering what is really wrong because of the interest that Trump has. I'm trying to weigh on what Tom Wolf was telling us, and we hope that Trump will listen to what Kenyans are talking about so that he takes a neutral stand. He drops this kind of puppet relationship so that Kenyans can also exercise their autonomy, and we believe he will replace Meg Whitman with an ambassador who is sensitive to Kenyans' sentiments, Kenyans' feelings, an ambassador who will not lie in bed with the administration even when atrocities are being meted on people. I don't know what you think about Tom Wolf. I don't know. Please share with me what you think. Do you think Tom Wolf has got a point? Do you think Donald Trump will keep a deaf ear to what is happening in the country? Or do you think he will be so much involved that he will be ensuring that Kenyans' cries are listened to?